Darling, it seems our plane is about to crash.
But I never got on that plane. You see, the moment I heard Kara's voice crack on message number 12, begging me to come home, promising we could work things out, I knew something was wrong. Real wrong. My wife hadn't begged for anything in 3 years, not even when I caught her texting some guy at midnight last month. She'd just rolled over and told me I was paranoid. So there I sat in Logan Airport, watching my flight to Honolulu taxi away without me, grinning like an idiot. Because for the first time in our 8-year marriage, I held all the cards. My name's Sam Hartley. I'm 38. I fix things for a living, and until yesterday, I thought my biggest problem was Mark pouring marinara sauce over my head while his friends laughed. Turns out that was just the appetizer. I drive a beat-up Ford pickup that smells like sawdust and regret. I live in Stonebridge, Massachusetts, where everyone knows everyone's business except their own. And I married a woman who thinks I'm too stupid to figure out she's been screwing around. She was wrong about that too. The drive back from Boston took 2 hours. 2 hours of listening to increasingly frantic voicemails from Kara, her mother Helen, even her piece of garbage brother Mark. By message 50, Mark was apologizing. By message 100, Kara was crying. By message 200, Helen was threatening to call the police. That's when I knew I had them right where I wanted them. See, here's what they didn't know. I hadn't just bought that ticket on impulse. I'd been planning to leave for weeks, ever since I found the motel receipt in Kara's car. Lakeside Inn, room 47, charged to her credit card. Same night, she told me she was working late at the firm. I'm not a genius, but I'm not blind either. When your wife starts wearing perfume to grocery runs and gets mysterious text messages that make her smile the way she used to smile at you start paying attention. So I'd been setting things up, slowly, carefully. Transferring money to my personal account, getting my tools organized, planning my exit strategy like the handyman I am, methodical, thorough, with backup plans for the backup plans. The Hawaii ticket was just the cherry on top. A way to see how much they really cared when the chips were down. Turns out they cared a lot more when they thought I might actually leave than they ever did when I was right there taking their crap. I pulled into my driveway at 9:47 p.m. Kara's BMW was there, along with Mark's flashy red Corvette and Helen's ancient Cadillac, the whole family council assembled for crisis management. Through the kitchen window, I could see them hunched around my dining room table like they were planning a funeral, which, in a way, they were. I sat in my truck for 5 minutes, watching them panic, savoring every second. Kara kept checking her phone, probably waiting for message 316. Mark was pacing, still had tomato sauce stains on his polo shirt. Helen was smoking, which she only did when she was really stressed. When I finally walked through the front door, the silence was beautiful. Sam. Kara jumped up so fast she knocked over her chair. Thank God you're home. We need to talk. Do we? I dropped my keys on the counter, calm as you please. Because about 6 hours ago, you told me to take every insult and apologize. Exact words. Mark shifted uncomfortably. The big, tough real estate agent who'd thought it was hilarious to dump spaghetti on my head suddenly couldn't meet my eyes. That was, he started. A mistake, I finished. Yeah, I know. Just like the mistake you made thinking I'd roll over and take it forever. Helen stubbed out her cigarette. Sam, you're being dramatic. Mark already said he was sorry. He said he was sorry to my voicemail. He never said it to my face. I walked over to where Mark was standing, close enough that he could smell the airport coffee on my breath. He's 3 inches taller than me and probably 30 pounds heavier, but right now he looked like he wanted to disappear. Well? I said. I'm sorry, Sam. The spaghetti thing was out of line. It was assault, I corrected him. In front of 40 people, including your daughter. What do you think she learned about respect today, Mark? His face went red. Don't bring Emma into this. You brought her into it when you decided to humiliate her uncle at a family party. Actions have consequences, big guy. That's what we teach kids, right? Kara stepped between us. Enough. Sam, we're all sorry about what happened, but disappearing like that, making us think you were actually leaving, that was cruel. I laughed. Actually laughed, right in her face. Cruel? You want to talk about cruel, Kara? I pulled out my phone, opened my photo gallery. Tell me, is this cruel? The image on my screen was a receipt from the Lakeside Inn. Room 47. The same room I'd driven by last Thursday night and seen her car parked outside. The color drained from her face. Sam, I can explain. Can you? Because I'm dying to hear this explanation. Really dying to hear how you can explain charging a motel room to your credit card the same night you told me you were working late. Helen stood up. What are you talking about? Your daughter's been having an affair, Helen. With Eric Blackwood, the yoga instructor. You know, the guy with the man bun who talks about finding your inner truth. Turns out Kara found her inner truth spread eagle in a $60 motel room. The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. Kara's hand caught me right across the cheek, hard enough to make my ears ring. You bastard, she hissed. How dare you go through my things? How dare I? I touched my cheek, feeling the sting. Lady, you left the receipt in your car. Same car I detail every month because you're too precious to get your hands dirty. I wasn't snooping. I was cleaning. Mark finally found his voice. Kara, is this true? She spun around to face him. It's not what you think. It's exactly what you think, I said. Your sister's been cheating on me for months. With a guy who wears hemp jewelry and charges $60 to teach housewives how to breathe. That's enough! Helen slammed her hand on the table. I don't care what problems you two are having. You don't air dirty laundry in front of family. Dirty laundry? I stared at her. Helen, your daughter violated her marriage vows. She lied to my face for months. She made me look like an idiot in front of this whole town. And you're worried about dirty laundry? Marriage is hard work, Helen said, lighting another cigarette. Sometimes people make mistakes. Mistakes? I nodded slowly. Right. Like the mistake I made thinking any of you actually gave a damn about me. The mistake I made believing family meant something. I looked around the room at their faces. Kara, guilty and defiant. Mark, still trying to process everything. Helen, already calculating how to spin this to protect her precious daughter. Well, here's the thing about mistakes, I said. They have consequences. And starting tomorrow, you're all going to learn what those consequences look like. What's that supposed to mean? Kara demanded. I smiled. Not a nice smile. Not the kind of smile she was used to seeing from me. It means the punching bag you've all been using for target practice just learned how to punch back, and I've got 8 years of hits to return. I walked to the stairs, then turned back. Oh, and Kara? I'm sleeping in the guest room from now on. Wouldn't want to interrupt any late-night calls from your yoga instructor. That night, lying in the narrow guest bed, I listened to them argue downstairs until almost 2 a.m. Heard Kara crying, Mark trying to play peacemaker, Helen chain-smoking and pacing. They thought the worst was over. They thought I'd blown off steam, and now we could all go back to normal. They had no idea what normal was about to look like. The next morning, I was up at 6, same as always. Made coffee, read the paper, acted like nothing had changed. When Kara came downstairs at 7, dressed for work in her power suit and armor of expensive perfume, I didn't even look up from my crossword puzzle. We need to talk, she said. Do we? Sam, please, what happened last night? We can work through this. Can we? I finally looked at her. How exactly do we work through you screwing another man, Kara? Is there a 12-step program for that? Adultery Anonymous? She flinched. Don't be cruel. I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest. Something you might want to try sometime. She sat down across from me, tried to take my hand. I pulled it away. I made a mistake, she said. Eric, it wasn't supposed to happen. It just did. How long? What? How long have you been screwing him? I want to know exactly how big a fool I've been. Tears started flowing. Real tears, not the crocodile variety she used when she wanted something. 3 months, she whispered. It started 3 months ago. 3 months. 90 days of coming home to my wife after she'd been with another man. 90 days of her lying to my face, kissing me with the same mouth she'd been using on Eric Blackwood. Why? I asked. I don't know. That's not good enough. She wiped her eyes, smearing her mascara. You've been so distant lately, so angry all the time. We never talk anymore. We never what? Have sex? Yeah, I noticed that too. Kinda hard to get excited about my wife when she's always too tired or too stresses or has a headache. Meanwhile, she's apparently got plenty of energy for Yoga Boy. It wasn't about the Zex. No? What was it about then? He listens to me. He makes me feel what? Alive. The word hung in the air between us like a curse. Alive. I repeated it slowly, tasting how bitter it was. And being married to me makes you feel dead? That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. I stood up, folded my newspaper neatly. Well, congratulations, Kara. You're about to feel more alive than you ever imagined. I kissed her forehead, gentle as a whisper. Have a good day at work, sweetheart. Try not to think about how much your life is about to change. My first stop was downtown, to the offices of the Stonebridge Gazette. Small-town newspaper, but they had a decent website and a gossip columnist named Betty Morse who'd been stirring up trouble since before I was born. Betty was about 70, chain-smoked Virginia Slims, and knew where every body in town was buried. She also owed me a favor. I'd fixed her kitchen sink last year when she couldn't afford a real plumber. Sam Hartley! She looked up from her computer, grinning like a shark. What brings you to my den of iniquity? Information, Betty. And maybe a little justice. My favorite kind of customer. What do you need? What do you know about Eric Blackwood? Her eyes lit up. The yoga instructor? Oh, honey, where do I start? That boy's got more secrets than a CIA agent. Such as? Well, for starters, he's not really a yoga instructor. Got his certification online, took a weekend course in Mystic. Before that, he was selling used cars in Hartford. Interesting. What else? Divorced twice. Owes back alimony to both ex-wives. Currently being sued by his landlord for 3 months back rent. Oh, and he's been telling people around town that he's got some rich woman taking care of his expenses. I felt that familiar tingle of anticipation. Rich woman? Wouldn't say who. But suddenly he's got money for new clothes, eating at fancy restaurants, driving that ridiculous BMW he leases. BMW. Same car I'd seen parked next to Kara's at the Lakeside Inn. Betty, how would you feel about doing a little investigative journalism? What kind of investigating? I pulled out my phone, showed her the motel receipt. The kind that involves exposing hypocrites. Her eyes went wide. Sam, is this what I think it is? Depends what you think it is. Your wife and the yoga boy. Got it in one. She leaned back in her chair, already calculating angles. What do you want me to do with this? Nothing yet. Just keep your eyes open. And if you happen to hear any interesting stories about married women funding their boy toys lifestyles, well, that sounds like news to me. What's in it for me? The story of the year. Plus, I'll fix that loose banister at your house. The one you've been complaining about for 6 months? Deal. She held out her hand, and I shook it. Sam, honey, you sure you want to go down this road? Once this kind of thing gets out, there's no putting it back. I'm sure. Your wife's not going to like it. My wife should have thought about that before she started screwing around. My next stop was the hardware store. I needed supplies for what came next. Roy Hendricks has owned Stonebridge Hardware for 30 years. He's also Mark's landlord for the little real estate office downtown. More importantly, he's been suspicious of Mark's books for months. Sam! Roy looked up from his inventory clipboard. What can I do you for? Just need some supplies, Roy. Paint, brushes, couple of tarps. What kind of project you working on? The kind that's going to make a lot of people in this town very unhappy. Roy laughed. Sounds like my kind of project. You know, speaking of unhappy people, you might want to keep an eye on your brother-in-law. What do you mean? Mark's been behind on his rent for 3 months. Keeps giving me excuses, saying he's got money coming in from big deals. But I've been watching his office. Not a lot of traffic for a guy making big deals. Maybe business is slow. Maybe. Or maybe he's been dipping into funds that ain't his. Roy lowered his voice. You didn't hear this from me, but I know for a fact he's been handling the books for the Little League fundraiser. 20 grand they raised for new equipment. And I've seen the equipment they ordered. Maybe 8 grand worth. Makes a man wonder where the other 12 grand went. Bingo. Mark wasn't just an entitled prick who liked humiliating people at family parties. He was an entitled prick with sticky fingers. Roy, you keep track of serial numbers on the paint you sell? Course I do. Why? Just curious. If someone were to, say, accidentally spill paint on someone else's property, you'd be able to trace where that paint came from. Roy's grin got wider. Sam, I do believe you're planning something devious. Me? I'm just a simple handyman who's tired of being everyone's punching bag. That afternoon, I drove out to Blackwood's yoga studio. Harmony Health and Wellness, tucked between a dry cleaner and a sandwich shop in a strip mall on the edge of town. Through the big front window, I could see Eric leading a class of middle-aged women through some ridiculous pose. He was in his element, all flowing movements and spiritual nonsense, talking about connecting with your inner goddess. I wondered how many of those inner goddesses were paying his bills. The class ended at 4. I watched the women file out, chatting about chakras and energy fields. Then I watched Eric lock up and head toward his BMW. That's when I made my move. Eric, I called out, jogging across the parking lot like I was glad to see him. He turned, saw me coming, and his face went pale. Sam, he said carefully. Hi. Hey there, buddy. Thought I'd stop by, see what all the fuss is about. I gestured toward the studio. Kara's been talking about taking up yoga. Says you're the best instructor in town. That's very flattering. She's been working so hard lately, you know. All those late nights at the office. I keep telling her she needs to find a way to relax. Eric shifted uncomfortably. Yoga is very good for stress relief. I bet it is. All that stretching and bending and positioning. I smiled innocently. Must be rewarding work. It is. Pay well? I do okay. Must do better than okay. Nice car. I walked around his BMW, admiring it. This is what, 60,000? 70? It's leased. Still, lease payments on something like this, that's got to be $1,500 a month easy, plus insurance. Must be nice to have that kind of disposable income. I work hard. I'm sure you do. All that private instruction, one-on-one sessions, very personal attention. His hands were shaking now. Sam, is there something specific you want? Just making conversation, Eric. We're practically family, after all. Family? Well, you're sleeping with my wife. That makes us something, doesn't it? The words hit him like a physical blow. He actually stumbled backward. I don't know what you're talking about. Room 47 Lakeside Inn, 3 months of Tuesday night meditation sessions, my wife paying for your car, your clothes, probably your rent. I stepped closer. Did I miss anything? Sam, listen. No, you listen. I know what you are, I know what she is, and I know exactly what I'm going to do about it. What do you want? I want you to understand something, Eric. You thought you were screwing around with some lonely housewife, easy money, and easier sex, but you picked the wrong wife, because this particular husband doesn't roll over and play dead. I leaned in close enough to smell his expensive cologne. I'm going to destroy you, I whispered, both of you, slowly, carefully, and completely. And by the time I'm done, you're going to wish you'd never heard the name Kara Hartley. I patted his shoulder, friendly as could be. Have a blessed day, Eric. Try to find your inner peace while you still can. That evening, Kara came home to find me in the kitchen, cooking dinner like nothing had happened. Smells good, she said cautiously. Spaghetti and meatballs seemed appropriate. She winced. Sam, about last night. What about it? The things you said? About Eric and me? What about them? People make mistakes. Yes, they do. I stirred the sauce, added a little more oregano. Some mistakes are bigger than others. We could go to counseling. Could we? Other couples work through this kind of thing. Other couples? I tasted the sauce, nodded approvingly. Tell me, Kara, in these other couples, does the cheating wife usually pay her lover's bills? Silence. Because that's not just adultery, sweetheart. That's prostitution with extra steps. That's a horrible thing to say. It's a horrible thing to do. She started crying again. I love you, Sam. I know I messed up, but I love you. No, you don't. Yes, I do. You love the idea of me. The steady paycheck, the guy who fixes things and doesn't ask questions, the husband who makes you look respectable while you're off finding your inner goddess with Yoga Boy. That's not true, isn't it? I turned to face her fully. When's the last time you asked me about my work? When's the last time you cared about anything I had to say that wasn't related to household maintenance? She opened her mouth, then closed it. That's what I thought. I went back to stirring. Dinner's ready. You should eat something. Gonna be a long week. The next morning, I was waiting outside Eric's studio when he arrived for his 6 a.m. class. We need to talk, I said. I have nothing to say to you. That's okay. I'll do the talking. I followed him to the front door, waited while he fumbled with his keys. Nice morning, I said conversationally. Good day for new beginnings. What do you want, Sam? I want you to know that I spent yesterday afternoon doing research. Very interesting research. About what? About you. About your business. About the interesting discrepancy between your reported income and your lifestyle. His hands stilled on the lock. See, I got to thinking about how a guy who teaches yoga in a strip mall can afford a $70,000 car. So I did some digging. You're harassing me. I'm sharing information, public information, like the fact that your ex-wives are looking for you. Seems you owe them quite a bit of money. That's between me and them. Not anymore. See, they hired a private investigator, guy named Patterson, works out of Hartford, very thorough, very persistent. Eric finally got the door open, practically fell through it. Patterson's been trying to track you down for months, I continued, following him inside. But Eric Blackwood's a pretty common name, and you've been careful about staying off the radar. Until now. What do you mean? I mean, I had a very interesting conversation with Mr. Patterson yesterday evening. Turns out he's very grateful for anonymous tips about his target's whereabouts. Eric went white. You didn't. I absolutely did. Patterson should be arriving in Stonebridge sometime this morning, along with a process server and probably a sheriff's deputy. Funny how these things snowball. You son of a bitch. Now. No need for name-calling. After all, I'm just trying to help reunite you with family. Your ex-wives miss you, Eric. They want to discuss your outstanding financial obligations. I don't owe them anything. The courts disagree. 18 months back alimony plus interest and penalties. That comes to, let me see, about $47,000. Eric sank into a chair behind the front desk. I don't have that kind of money. Sure you do. You've got a BMW, fancy clothes, you're eating at the best restaurants in town. You've clearly got income from somewhere. I can't what? Can't ask your sugar mama for $47,000? Can't explain to my wife that her boy toy's been using her money to hide from his legal obligations. She doesn't know about any of that. Maybe she should. Maybe she should know exactly what kind of man she's been bankrolling. I pulled out my phone, started dialing. What are you doing? Calling Kara. Figured she'd want to know her investment's about to be seized by the courts. Wait. Eric held up his hand. Don't call her. Give me a reason not to. I'll end it. The thing with Kara. I'll end it today. Will you? Yes. I swear. I considered this, then put my phone away. Okay. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call my wife and tell her it's over. You're going to tell her you're leaving town. And you're going to do it in a way that makes it clear this was your decision, not mine. And if I do that, then maybe I don't mention to Mr. Patterson that you've been living under an assumed address. Maybe I don't tell him about the cash income you've been hiding from the courts. How do I know you won't tell him anyway? You don't. But I guarantee I will tell him if you don't do exactly what I just said. Eric stared at me for a long moment. You're not who I thought you were, he said finally. No, I agreed. I'm not. Neither are you. That afternoon, Kara came home early from work. I could hear her crying before she even got through the front door. He's gone, she said when she found me in the garage, organizing tools. Who's gone? Eric. He called me this morning, said he was leaving town. Said it was a mistake, that he never meant for things to go so far. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? I looked up from my toolbox. Am I what? Sorry. I'm sorry you're hurt. I'm not sorry he's gone. You did this. Did what? You scared him off. Did I? How would I do that? I don't know, but I know you did something. Maybe he just realized what a bad idea it was to sleep with a married woman. Maybe he developed a conscience. You're lying. Am I? Then call him, ask him to come back. She pulled out her phone, hit a contact. I could hear it ringing through the speaker. After 6 rings, it went to voicemail. His number's disconnected, she said. Huh, that's weird. You know something. I know a lot of things, Kara. I know Eric Blackwood isn't even his real name. I know he's been hiding from 2 ex-wives who want $47,000 in back alimony. I know he's been using you to bankroll a lifestyle he can't afford. Her face went pale. That's not true. Isn't it? How much money have you given him? How much have you spent on dinners, clothes, hotel rooms? It wasn't like that. What was it like? He needed help getting his business off the ground. I was just what? He just playing sugar mama to a con artist? He loved me. No, he didn't. He loved your credit cards. She slapped me. Again. Harder this time. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I said calmly. But you're going to hate me a lot more before this is over. That weekend was the 4th of July parade. Biggest event of the year in Stonebridge, the whole town turns out. I'd been planning this moment for days. I positioned myself right in front of the reviewing stand, where all the town big shots sit. Mayor, City Council, Chamber of Commerce, and right in the front row, Mark and Helen, playing the part of pillars of the community. When the fire trucks finished their sirens and the marching band took a break, I stood up. "Ladies and gentlemen," I called out, loud enough for half the crowd to hear, "I'd like to take a moment to thank my brother-in-law, Mark Brennan, for his generous contribution to our Little League program." Mark looked confused. Helen looked suspicious. Thanks to Mark's creative bookkeeping, our kids got $8,000 worth of equipment instead of the $20,000 we raised. "Mark, why don't you tell everyone where that other $12,000 went?" The crowd went quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. "Sam," Mark stood up, his face red. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about embezzlement, Mark. I'm talking about you stealing money from children's baseball teams." "That's a lie, is it?" I pulled out a folder, held it up, because I've got the receipts right here. Equipment purchases, actual costs versus the amount raised at the fundraiser. Math's pretty simple, even for you. Mark jumped down from the reviewing stand, came at me fast. "You son of a bitch!" I sidestepped his charge, let him stumble past me. "Easy there, big guy. Don't want to assault someone in front of half the town. Again." He turned around, took another swing. This time I was ready. Caught his wrist, twisted his arm behind his back, put him face first into the nearest hot dog stand. "Mark Brennan, everybody," I called out. "Thief, bully, and sore loser." 2 police officers were pushing through the crowd now. I released Mark, stepped back with my hands up. "Officers," I said politely, "I'd like to report a crime." It took 3 hours to sort everything out. Mark was arrested, not for embezzlement, but for assault. Seems the whole spaghetti incident had been caught on video by someone's phone, and combined with his swing at me during the parade, it was enough for the cops. I spent the rest of the afternoon giving my statement, playing the part of the long-suffering victim who'd finally had enough. By evening, the whole story was all over town. Betty Morse had outdone herself, spinning a tale of family drama, financial impropriety, and public humiliation that had everyone talking. Mark Brennan, community leader or community thief, read the headline on the Gazette's website. The article was masterful, full of just enough facts to be legally safe and just enough innuendo to destroy Mark's reputation. That night, Kara was waiting for me when I got home. "You're destroying my family," she said. "I'm exposing your family." There's a difference. Mark made a mistake. Mark stole $12,000 from children. That's not a mistake, it's a felony. He'll pay it back. With what? He's broke, Kara. Been broke for months. That's why he took the money in the first place. How do you know all this? I pay attention. Something you might want to try. She was crying again, but these weren't tears of sadness. These were tears of rage. "What do you want from us?" "I want you to understand what it feels like to be humiliated in front of people you have to face every day. I want you to know what it's like when everyone in town is talking about your business. I want you to experience the kind of shame I've been living with for months." "We get it. You've made your point." "Have I? Because this is just the beginning." 2 days later, the state auditor showed up at Mark's real estate office. Seems someone had filed a complaint about financial irregularities in his handling of community fundraising activities. The audit didn't take long. Mark's bookkeeping was about as subtle as a brick through a window. Within hours, they'd found not just the Little League money, but irregularities in 3 other charity accounts he'd managed. Total amount missing, $38,000. Mark was arrested again, this time on felony charges. This time there was no bail. "You did this," Helen accused me when she cornered me at the grocery store. "You destroyed my son. I didn't make Mark steal that money. You set him up." I exposed him. If Mark hadn't been stealing, there wouldn't be anything to expose. He's a good man who made some bad choices. He's a thief who got caught. There's a difference. What about Emma? What about his daughter? Did you think about what this would do to her? That stopped me. Emma was Mark's 8-year-old sweet kid who didn't deserve to have a criminal for a father. Emma will be fine, I said, but I felt a twinge of guilt. Kids are resilient. You're a monster. I'm a man who got tired of being everyone's punching bag. The next morning, I got a call from Roy Hendricks. Sam, you need to get down here. We got a problem. I found Roy standing in front of his hardware store, looking at the mess someone had made of his front window. Someone had thrown a rock through it along with a note. Stop helping Sam, or you're next. Any idea who did this? I asked. Got my suspicions. Question is, what do you want to do about it? I studied the broken glass, the threatening note. Someone was escalating things. Someone was scared. I want security cameras, I said. Best ones you've got, and I want them installed tonight. This is getting serious, Sam. It's been serious. People are just starting to realize it. That night, I didn't go home. Instead, I parked across the street from my house and waited. Sure enough, around midnight, I saw movement in my backyard. 3 figures, all dressed in black, trying to break into my garage. I waited until they were all inside, then I made my move. The garage has only one exit. I'd made sure of that when I installed the new security system last month. What they didn't know was that I'd also installed motion sensors and a remote locking mechanism. One click of my phone, and they were trapped. I walked up to the garage door, knocked politely. Gentlemen, this is Sam Hartley. I know you're in there and I know why you're here. You've got 2 choices. You can come out peacefully and we can discuss this like adults, or I can call the police and you can explain to them why you're breaking into my property at midnight. Silence. I'm going to count to 10. If that door isn't open by the time I reach 10, I'm calling 911. I got to 7 before the door opened. Mark stumbled out first, followed by 2 guys I didn't recognize, muscle for hire by the look of them. All 3 were soaking wet. I'd triggered the sprinkler system remotely, just for fun. Mark, I said pleasantly, shouldn't you be in jail? I made bail? With what money? Oh, wait, let me guess. Helen mortgaged her house to spring her baby boy. His face told me I'd guessed right. What were you planning to do in my garage, Mark? Plant evidence? Steal something you could use against me? You're destroying my life. You destroyed your own life when you started stealing from kids. I just made sure everyone knew about it. One of his hired goons stepped forward. This is between you and Mark. Walk away, and nobody gets hurt. I looked him up and down. Big guy, probably used to intimidating people with his size. Unfortunately for him, I'd spent 8 years being intimidated by people who were supposed to love me. Random strangers didn't scare me anymore. What's your name? I asked. What? Your name? What is it? Tommy. Well, Tommy, here's the thing. You're trespassing on my property. You broke into my garage. You just threatened me. And the whole thing's been recorded by about 6 different cameras. Tommy looked around, suddenly noticing the small red lights blinking from various corners of my yard. I installed a security system last week, I explained. Motion-activated night vision audio recording. Everything that's happened here tonight is being uploaded to the cloud in real time. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone, opened an app, showed him the screen. There he was, clear as day, threatening me on camera. Still think I'm bluffing? Tommy stepped back. Now, I continued, you and your friend are going to leave. You're going to forget you ever knew Mark Brennan. And you're never going to come near me or my property again. And if we don't, then this video goes to the police, along with footage of you breaking and entering. That's 5 to 10 years, Tommy, for a guy you just met. Is Mark really worth that much to you? Tommy looked at Mark, then back at me. The calculation was easy. Come on, Jerry, he said to his partner. This is bullcrap. They walked away without looking back. Just you and me now, Mark, I said. What do you want? I want you to understand something. This isn't over. This isn't even the beginning of over. What happened today, what happened at the parade, that was just me getting warmed up. I'll ruin you. With what? You're broke, you're facing felony charges, and now you're on camera committing more crimes. What exactly are you going to ruin me with? Mark lunged at me, desperation making him sloppy. I sidestepped, stuck out my foot, and watched him crash into my recycling bins. Stay down, Mark. You're embarrassing yourself. He got up anyway, took another swing. This time I didn't dodge. I caught his fist in my palm, squeezed until I heard knuckles pop. I could break your hand right now, I said conversationally. Claim self-defense. Got it all on video, remember? Do it. Nah. That would be too easy. Besides, I've got bigger plans for you. I released his hand, stepped back. Go home, Mark. Hug your daughter while you still can. Because after tomorrow, you're not going to be around to do it for a very long time. The next morning, I paid a visit to Sarah Fleming, Mark's ex-partner at the real estate agency. Sarah had been trying to distance herself from Mark ever since the arrest, but she was still neck-deep in his mess. Sam, she said nervously when I walked into her office, I heard about what happened to Mark. Terrible situation. Terrible for him. Good for the kids whose money he stole. Look, if you're here about the agency, I want you to know I had nothing to do with Mark's activities. I know you didn't, Sarah. That's not why I'm here. Then what do you want? I want to make you an offer. I sat down across from her desk, made myself comfortable. Mark's going to prison, we both know that. Question is, what happens to his clients? His listings? His commission deals? That's confidential information. Not really. Most of it's public record, but I'm not interested in his business dealings. What then? I'm interested in his personal dealings. Specifically, the off-the-books work he's been doing. Sarah's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. The cash deals, the under-the-table commissions, the properties he's been flipping without reporting the income. I would never… Sarah, I'm not here to get you in trouble. I'm here to offer you a way out. What kind of way out? I pulled out a manila folder, set it on her desk. Everything Mark's been hiding. Bank records, property transfers, cash transactions, all documented, all verifiable. She opened the folder, flipped through the pages. Her hands were shaking. Where did you get this? Doesn't matter. What matters is what you do with it. What do you want me to do? I want you to take this to the district attorney. I want you to cooperate fully with the investigation. And I want you to make sure Mark doesn't wiggle out of this on some technicality. He'll know it came from me. He'll suspect. He won't know. And by the time he figures it out, he'll be too busy fighting federal tax evasion charges to worry about you. Federal charges? Mark's been hiding income for 3 years, Sarah. That's not just theft, it's tax fraud. IRS takes that very seriously. She stared at the documents, then back at me. What's in this for you? Justice, and the satisfaction of watching Mark learn what consequences really look like. And what's in it for me? Immunity. Full cooperation with the investigation means you get to walk away clean. Keep your license, keep your business, keep your reputation. And if I don't cooperate, then when this all comes out, and it will come out, you look like a co-conspirator. Guilty by association. Sarah closed the folder. I need time to think about this. You've got until 5 p.m. today. After that, I take this straight to the feds myself. I stood up, headed for the door. Sarah, make the right choice. Don't go down with Mark's ship. That afternoon, I got a call from Betty Morse. "Sam, honey, you need to see today's paper." "What's in it?" "Front page story about real estate fraud." Seems someone provided the DA's office with very detailed information about certain local agents. No kidding. Care to comment on how this information might have been obtained? No comment, Betty. But I will say this. It's amazing what you can learn when you pay attention to public records. Uh-huh. Well, however it happened, Mark Brennan's in even deeper trouble now. Federal investigators are taking over the case. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. That evening, Kara was waiting for me with divorce papers. "Sign these," she said. "What's the hurry?" "I want out. I want out of this marriage, out of this house, out of this nightmare you've created." I picked up the papers, flipped through them casually. "Interesting terms," I noted. "You want half of everything plus alimony, plus the house." "It's a fair settlement." "Fair?" I laughed. "Kara, you cheated on me, lied to me, and spent our money on your boyfriend. What exactly is fair about you getting half of everything? Massachusetts is a no-fault state. Maybe, but it's also a state that considers adultery when dividing assets, especially when the adultery involves financial misconduct." "What financial misconduct?" "The money you spent on Eric, the credit cards you maxed out paying for his lifestyle, the joint account you cleaned out for his rent and car payments." "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out another folder. Seemed like I was doing that a lot lately. Bank statements, credit card bills, hotel receipts, all showing a pattern of you using marital assets to support your affair. Her face went white. "You can't prove anything." "I can prove everything. Question is, do you really want this to go to court? Do you really want a judge to hear about how you spent $15,000 of our money on your yoga instructor? 15,000? Hotel rooms, dinners, clothes, his car payments. It adds up, sweetheart." She sank into a chair. "What do you want?" "I want you to tear up these papers and file new ones. Fair ones. 50-50 split of assets, minus the 15 grand you spent on Eric. No alimony. You keep your car, I keep mine. You find somewhere else to live. That's not fair. It's more fair than you deserve. I'll fight it." "Go ahead. But remember, everything comes out in divorce court, including the part where you were essentially paying for Zex." She stared at me with pure hatred. "I used to love you," she said. "No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me, the steady husband who didn't ask questions and didn't make waves. Well, surprise, I'm asking questions now and I'm making waves big enough to drown in." The charity gala was 2 weeks later. Biggest social event of the year in Stonebridge, all the town's elite gathering to pat themselves on the back and pretend they cared about poor people. I wasn't supposed to be there. Didn't have the money or the social standing for a $500 a plate dinner, but I'd bought a ticket anyway, using some of the money I'd been saving for my escape to Hawaii. Because this was my moment. This was where everything came together. I wore my one good suit, the one I'd gotten married in 8 years ago. Kara was there too, of course, sitting at the head table with her mother and the rest of Stonebridge's self-appointed royalty. She saw me walk in, and the look on her face was priceless. Pure panic. I found my table in the back, sat down next to a bunch of people I didn't know, and waited for my moment. It came during the speeches. Mayor Patterson was droning on about community spirit and shared values when I stood up. "Excuse me?" I called out, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "I'd like to say something about community spirit." The mayor looked confused. "I'm sorry, this isn't an open forum." "No, it's not," I agreed, walking toward the head table. "It's a celebration of our town's finest citizens. People like Mark Brennan, who organized multiple charity fundraisers." Helen tried to signal me to stop. Kara was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. "Of course, Mark can't be here tonight," I continued. He's in federal custody, facing charges for embezzling money from those same charities. Funny how that works out. Sir, you need to sit down, the mayor said. In a minute. First, I want to share something with all of you. A story about family values and community spirit. I reached the microphone, gently moved the mayor aside. See, I used to think this town was about helping each other, looking out for your neighbors, treating people with respect. I looked directly at Kara. Turns out I was wrong about a lot of things. Sam, don't do this, Kara whispered. Don't do what? Tell the truth? Share my story with our friends and neighbors? I turned back to the crowd. 3 months ago, I discovered my wife was having an affair with Eric Blackwood, the yoga instructor. Now, affairs happen. People make mistakes. But what made this special was that my wife was paying for the privilege. A murmur went through the crowd. $15,000 of our joint money spent on hotel rooms, dinners, clothes, even his car payments. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She was essentially running a high-end escort service with a client list of 1. That's enough. Helen stood up, her face red with embarrassment. Is it? Because I haven't gotten to the best part yet. I smiled at the crowd. See, Eric wasn't just a yoga instructor. He was a con man, running from 2 ex-wives and $47,000 in back alimony. My wife was so blinded by his spiritual wisdom that she never bothered to do a background check on her investment. Kara was crying now, but I wasn't done. And then there's my brother-in-law, Mark. Pillar of the community, organizer of charity events, and expert at making money disappear. $38,000 to be exact. Money meant for Little League equipment, youth programs, food banks. But Mark had a gambling problem and expensive tastes. You're lying, someone called out. Am I? Check tomorrow's paper. Check the federal indictments. Check the audit reports. I pulled out a thick folder. Or check these bank records, which show exactly where the money went. I scattered the papers across the head table, watching them flutter down like confetti. This is what your community leaders look like when you bother to pay attention. This is what family values look like when you scratch the surface. Security was moving toward me now, but I wasn't finished. So enjoy your dinner, folks. Enjoy celebrating the fine people who make this town great. Just remember that the money you're spending tonight could have gone to actual charity instead of lining the pockets of thieves and adulterers. 2 security guards grabbed my arms, but I didn't resist. Oh, and Kara? I called back to my wife. The divorce papers are on the kitchen table. Fair ones this time. Sign them, or I'll see you in court with all of this. They escorted me out to scattered applause and shocked whispers. In the parking lot, I lit a cigarette and waited. It didn't take long. Kara came storming out about 10 minutes later, followed by Helen and half a dozen other people. You son of a bitch, she screamed. You ruined everything. I exposed everything. There's a difference. My career is over. My reputation is destroyed. Your career was built on lies, and your reputation was fake. I just revealed the truth. Helen stepped forward. You're a monster, Sam Hartley. A vindictive, cruel monster. Maybe. But I'm an honest monster. More than I can say for your family. What do you want from us? Kara demanded. What will it take for you to stop? Stop? Sweetheart, I'm just getting started. More people were coming out of the hotel now, drawn by the shouting. Perfect. See, the thing about being the family punching bag is that you get really good at taking hits, but you also learn how to throw them. I dropped my cigarette, ground it under my heel. Mark's going to prison, probably for 5 to 10 years. Eric's fled the state to avoid his ex-wives and the fraud charges. Your law firm is reviewing your cases for conflicts of interest. And you... I smiled at Kara. You're about to discover what it's like to be the town pariah. We could have worked things out, she said desperately. We could have gone to counseling, saved our marriage. Could we? When? Between your affair and your brother's embezzlement. Or maybe after you spent our savings on your boyfriend's car payments. I made mistakes. You made choices, bad choices, and choices have consequences. I started walking toward my truck. Sam? Kara called after me. Where are you going? I turned back one last time. Away from here. Away from you. Away from this whole twisted family and their delusions of respectability. You can't just leave. Watch me. I got in my truck, started the engine. Through the windshield, I could see Kara standing in the parking lot, surrounded by the wreckage of her perfect life. For 8 years, I'd been their safety net. Their reliable, dependable Sam who could be counted on to take whatever they dished out and come back for more. Not anymore. I put the truck in drive and headed for the highway. In the rearview mirror, I could see Kara getting smaller and smaller until she disappeared entirely. Behind me, the charity gala was in chaos. Mark was in federal custody. Eric was on the run. The town's elite were gossiping about scandals and corruption. And me? I was free. Free of their expectations, their demands, their constant need to make me smaller so they could feel bigger. For the first time in years, I didn't know where I was going, but I knew exactly what I was leaving behind. A family that had never really been a family, a wife who had never really loved me, a life that had never really been mine. I rolled down the windows, let the night air wash over me, and smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes it's just walking away and letting them destroy themselves. But this wasn't one of those times. This was better.